All right, this seminar is on organized crime in the 20s and 30s. A couple of the big people I want to talk about. Al Capone, I'm also going to cover some more. His nickname was Scarface. He got cut on the left side of his face. He had insulted a man's wife, and the man slashed him across the face. He started out in New York, got in some trouble there for, I believe, stabbing an individual. So he fled to Chicago, ends up taking over the crime syndicate in Chicago, makes a ridiculous amount of money off of extortion, bootlegging, illegal alcohol, and prostitution. Actually ends up being arrested due to tax evasion. Famously, Capone brought in a lot of alcohol from Canada, through Wisconsin, down through the Great Lakes. They had vehicles like this that would hide alcohol in it, rum running, all kinds of stuff. He made a lot of money off that. He was the major supplier for the city of Chicago. He had 700 men on his payroll, controlled 10,000 speakeasies, so it can give you an idea of how much money he's making. Reports were that he would sometimes make $2 to $3 million a month in the 1920s. Capone had a feud with Dean O'Banion. It had gone on for 5 years. At one point, Capone, some of his men shot and killed Dean O'Banion in his flower shop. And the feud lasts all the way until Valentine's Day massacre. This is Dean O'Banion, and this is his flower shop. The report was that 3 of Capone's men went in and shot and killed him in his own flower shop. And then you have the massacre of the Moran gang, and that is who O'Banion was leading. Bugs Moran took over after his death. And what happened was, this group of the Moran gang from Banion, his group, they were meeting at this location. Everybody knew that that's where they met. And Capone had sent in a bunch of his guys, and they were actually dressed as Chicago police officers. And they go in and they bust it up. And what the gangsters from the Moran gang think is they're just going to get arrested, and they weren't that worried about it because they're going to be able to get bailed out because a lot of the gangsters basically had a lot of the judges bought and paid for, or they were just going to post bond, bail, and then get out. But the police line them up against this wall and then pull out Thompson submachine guns and just kill them. That's why it's called the massacre. And that wipes out a huge chunk of Moran and O'Banion's gang, basically ending the St. Valentine's Day Massacre and the feud between those guys. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre wall is actually an exhibit in Chicago. You can see they have these areas they've marked with red. That's not blood, that's just chalk. And some of them are circled, and there's the bullet holes actually in the wall. This YouTube video, just so you know, talks about the Chicago typewriter or the Thompson submachine gun. John Dillinger made that very famous. And there's movies about this. There's a movie called Public Enemy, which talks about John Dillinger. Johnny Depp is one of the main characters in there. But he was a famous gangster of the era. Bonnie and Clyde, another famous one. We're in the 1920s into the 1930s here. Husband and wife combo. They famously had Thompson submachine guns. They had Browning automatic rifles, BARs, shotguns, pistols, and they were famously gunned down in their vehicle. Which that vehicle is also on display. You can go see that, the vehicle that Bonnie and Clyde died in. We got Pretty Boy Floyd, known as the bank robber of Oklahoma, because he would often not only rob the banks, but he would give money to charities and those that are less well off. Also, he was famously credited with, when he'd go into the banks, he would destroy the mortgage paper area. By destroying the mortgage, the bank no longer had a record that you owed them money for your house, which would then eliminate the debt for a lot of homeowners. We can't confirm or deny whether that happened. Some of the sites I looked on said that might be in question. He became public enemy number one after John Dillinger was captured. I should say killed. Went into hiding after he became public enemy number one. And he ended up hiding up in Ohio, and the FBI caught onto him, and he was shot twice fleeing through a cornfield. And his last words, I'm done. You've shot me twice. And then he died shortly thereafter. Kind of lives on in legend. His funeral was attended by thousands of people, and Woody Guthrie, famous musical artist, wrote a song about Pretty Boy Floyd. Machine Gun Kelly, called that because of his use of the Thompson submachine gun. Bank robber, also a kidnapper. He really tried hard to increase his notoriety. He would actually hand out the spent bullet casings to people and say, hey, hold on to this. This is the bullet casing from the bank job I just did. So he was really trying to make himself into this larger-than-life individual. He actually got caught because while kidnapping a rich oil man, and the guy was blindfolded, he was paying attention to his surroundings, listening to a lot of the things they said, and was able to tell the FBI, I'm pretty sure they're hiding out in this part of Texas. And they were able to go down there and capture Machine Gun Kelly then. Babyface Nelson, another famous gangster. He had a little bit more of his notoriety into the 1930s. He was very youthful appearance. He was 5'4", 133 pounds, so not a real big guy. He joined John Dillinger's gang. Also a famous bank robber. Almost captured in Wisconsin. They had this place called the Hideout up in Little Bohemia, way northern Wisconsin, up by Manitowish Waters. This is north of and a little bit west of Minocqua, Woodruff area. You can go there. There's a whole bunch of stuff on display. It's like a little mini museum. He died in a shootout with FBI agents. I say eventually died. Him and his wife were in a car, and the FBI caught up to him, and he tried to chase, and he couldn't outrun them, so he stopped and he started firing on them. He killed one FBI agent outright. The second one he injured and ended up dying at the hospital. His wife miraculously did not get shot in the shootout, but he was shot 17 times by the FBI and did not die till a few days later. So he held on. This is Little Bohemia. This is the Hideout. You can go visit it today. There's bullet holes in trees. There's bullet holes in the building, in the siding and inside it. And they've kept it all like that. It's like a living museum. Another thing associated with the bootleggers, the gangsters, is running alcohol, bootlegging. So like this one, the seat folds up and you have a hidden compartment to hide alcohol. And I know I mentioned this in class before, but they would soup up these cars and make them really fast and powerful. And then on the weekends, when the bootleggers weren't working, they would race each other's cars, see who had the fastest car. And that's how NASCAR starts. And then I just have a YouTube video. It's pretty short, it's like 3-4 minutes, and it really just kind of summarizes the stuff I've already gone over, in case you want to hear it again. It doesn't really get in depth on any of the gangsters though, but just so you're aware, it's there in case you need it.